as we begin the 2013 legislative session in Hartford from the state capitol. Our first guest on this Meet the Leaders program is Clark Chapin, newly sworn in today as senator from the 30th Senate District, 14 towns in western Connecticut along the Housatonic Valley area. Senator Chapin will be replacing Andrew Rohrback, who served the Senate district for about 10 years, the 30th district, and it's a pleasure to have you with us, Senator. Welcome, and it's good to say no longer Senator-elect, but actually Senator Clark Chapin. Welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. It still sounds a little strange, but thanks for having me on the show.
Well, you took the oath of office this morning. Tell us about that.
I have done the same, only in the House chamber 6 other times. It was an entirely different experience. While I'll benefit, as well as my constituents will hopefully benefit from my years and experience in the building, it's a whole different arena up on the 3rd floor in the Capitol building.
Sure, but one thing that the Senate and the House had in common today is hearing the State of the State address from Governor Dannel Malloy. Of course, Senator, you'll agree it's been a very tough year with what we've seen in terms of weather, Superstorm Sandy, families still trying to recover from that. Of course, the horrific tragedy in Newtown that the state is still trying to recover from. The governor, of course, was a very public face in both of those arenas. Tell us, if you would, what stood out in your mind from his State of the State address today that talked about both of those issues?
Well, I have in the past, and I continue to give the governor high marks on his leadership when it comes to our times of disaster, whether they were weather related or other, as you mentioned. I think he has shown tremendous leadership skills. I think Connecticut has benefited from that leadership. I think he was right to give the first select woman, Pat Lodra, credit for her leadership through this trying time. And I think it wasn't inappropriate to really make both the Newtown event as well as possible legislation that occurs from that event the focus of his discussion today.
Do you have a personal view, Senator Chapin, on perhaps what ought to be done, or at least how the topic of gun control and school safety should be approached this session?
Well, I think, first of all, we shouldn't rush to any judgments. Nobody, at least none of us, I think, in this building really know the true facts. We only know what we've read or what we've heard. So I think to have a long and thoughtful debate on any proposals that come before us is the smart way to go. I think that if, not that we can find anything good in this, but the timing does lend itself to having these discussions through the regular process, not rush through any policy changes, but bring in the public, listen to the public. That's what we're elected to do, and hopefully come up with the best policy for the state of Connecticut.
One quote that stood out in the governor's address to me, Senator, was that having a handgun at the hip of every public school teacher and an armed guard outside of every classroom is not the answer. Would you agree with that?
You know, I would put that in the category of one of the things that people have suggested that we should consider. Apparently, the governor's already chosen to reject it. That's his right to do. But I think people that believe that that is a good idea would probably be criticized for rejecting the opposite arguments as well. I think we should listen to every single suggestion, and before we totally discount them, at least give them a fair hearing.
Well, back in December, the special session was called for the budget deficit mitigation process. At that time, a roughly $365 million budget deficit. Word now is that we might be facing a larger deficit of perhaps nearly $1 billion in the biennial budget cycle. Now, you were a state representative then, now a state senator. What do you feel should be the approach there in terms of trying to mitigate this? There was no talk of tax increases from the governor during the special session. Do you think we might see revenue enhancement or tax increases being discussed now?
I think that is probably likely, only because I know how difficult it was to handle the deficit mitigation plan we had with virtually no tax increases. I don't see how we don't have a full discussion about increasing revenue as well. may not be my preference, but I don't know how we get from point A to point B without at least having the discussion.
Right, and with that, there's going to be a lot of talk about state aid. Could this be the year that you might have to tell your cities and towns, the 14 and the 30th district, that yeah, we might see a cut in state aid?
Well, I've had the benefit of already going to our Council of Elected Officials legislative breakfast. I now have 3 different regional planning agencies in the 30th district, and they've all said the same thing. If aid is going to be cut, tell us when, how much, and if you have to go that route, then provide some sort of relief from the mandates that the state places on the municipalities.
So a lot has to play out, and we'll be watching that very carefully. Senator Chapin, a great pleasure to have you with us. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you,
bet.
Jeff.
Our guest has been State Senator Clark Chapin. He served the New Milford area as state representative for 12 years, 6 terms. Now is in the upper chamber as senator from the 30th district. Want to thank him, and we'll be back from the state capitol with another guest in just a moment. Stay with us.